Welcome back everybody, and I'm going to paint this lovely poinsettia today, and my colors are going to be Windsor Red, Hooker's Green, Phthalo Green, Cadmium Yellow Light, and Mauve. Now to create the darker colors in there, if you're going to make your red dark, you're going to add the Phthalo Green to it, maybe half and half I would say, and then if you're going to make your Hooker's Green dark, you're going to add your Windsor to it, but you're going to only add like a little bit to that. So I'm using my complements to create my dark colors in this illustration. Also, I want to say I got my inspiration from photos that I took. I have a poinsettia in my home, so when I'm out and about and I see that there's plants in the store, I get out my phone and I just take some photos of flowers in, Trader Joe's or Home Depot, or even your grocery store. You'll see a lot. If you're in a nursery, of course, just take a bunch of photos so you have a photo album of flowers the way you want for your own reference, because nobody sees things quite like you do. So it's a really good way to take reference photos. Now I just drew these because I know the shape of the poinsettia leaves, and so I just drew them kind of by not copying the plant exactly what I see. And so how I started was I just take my color, which is almost completely pure, like it's like out of the tube, but like with a little bit of water. So I just literally went around the edge of my petal, and then I came in and washed off my brush and came in with a slightly wet brush and just pulled that color into the petal. And then I'm dropping in my darker colors around the edges to bring some form up. And I also take this take all the color out of your brush and then just have it slightly damp, and then press on your petal or your leaf where you want to highlight and lift up some of that color, because as long as that area is wet, it's going to move, and it's going to move in places that you probably don't want it to go. So it's like a push me, pull you around kind of a process that I do with my watercolors. I'm going to demonstrate that process in a minute where I lift out that, color off of the petal. But you want to not have your petals super saturated with water. You don't want puddles on there. So the whole time we're painting, we're really painting with a surface that has a little shine to it. And you don't want any puddles because it'll just move in places that you don't want. So it's kind of thicker paint, and it is semi-dry. And it because it's wintertime and my house has a fireplace on, it's actually drying pretty quickly. But you can always re-wet it too. So if you find that it has dried, if you like the way it looks, leave it alone, and then you want to come back and put a light wash of water over it, and you can kind of go back and add more glazes over your leaf or your petal to make it really stand out the way you want. All right, so my process is I take my paint, it's pretty saturated paint, and I'm just going to go around the outside of the petals, and I put the little stem down the middle, and maybe I'll put some the veins in too. And then I go back with a damper brush with nothing on it, and I spread that paint around so that I have some highlights and some lowlights. And then I go get my mixture of green and my phthalo green and my red, and I will drop in on the edges and different areas where I think it should be darker to make the leaf stand like it's three-dimensional. And I think my process is it's wet on wet, and then gets more detailed as I go along. So that's all of my paintings are like that. I will start with a wet on wet wash, and just drop in colors, and then as it dries, you're adding more and more detail and bringing things into light or into focus. Thank you again for watching this video up until now. I'm going to continue on painting the petals in the red, and they're pretty much all the same. I keep going around wherever it is. If you have a wet area, you want to go to a dry area so it doesn't run into each other, because I always make that mistake myself, and because I get impatient basically. But so try to do the next area in a dry zone, and then go back in each area and continue on with your leaves. So thank you for subscribing, everybody who has subscribed, and I appreciate everybody who's left wonderful comments to me. And if you want me to paint something, please let me know, and I will try to paint that for you and give a demonstration. I'm also a graphic designer, and I illustrate in Procreate. And I teach Procreate on Skillshare and other classes. They've taken some down because they changed their algorithm, but I can paint in pastel and watercolor and colored pencil and Procreate. And I can also do surface pattern design, patterns, and let me know what you would like to see, and I will try to create a video around that idea. I love painting animals. And I have a watercolor ebook that you can get for free. The link to that will be below. And like I said before, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And I'm just going to let this run now for a few minutes. All right, so I painted in almost all of my red leaves or petals, whatever you want to call them, and I am just going back and manipulating it even more wherever I think it needs a little darker, a little lighter, adding more veins in. I think it's coming along really pretty. And I really love this Windsor red. I was using a different color earlier, and it was on the pink side, and I just felt like it wasn't moving the way I wanted it to, and it wasn't as bright as I liked it to be. But this Windsor red is absolutely a beautiful color to make a poinsettia with. Now I'm going to add in my green leaves, and they are done exactly the same way. And I'm also making the shadow area of the green sort of the opposite of what we did with the shadow areas of the reds. So you're going to take your green and you're going to have predominantly green, and you're going to add a little bit of that red to the green, and that's going to make a darker green, the shadow area of the green. And I can also use a little bit of that mauve. I like that mauve. It really lends itself. There's sort of an analogous color in the spectrum, and I like to use complements, and I like to use the analog kind of color system. Okay, sorry about that, but this one is a little bit off of my canvas. I didn't realize that it was out of the picture, but it's done exactly the same way as the other petals. And I like to turn my my block around. This is why I like to use blocks, because they're already flat and they stay flat, and you can just rotate your canvas around any way that you like to make it comfortable for you to paint. Now I'm mixing a darker brownish color, and it's still the red with the phthalo green, and I might put a little bit of mauve in there. I try to get it as dark as I can without, I never really want to use black, so don't use black, but you want to just use those complements. And I'm using the tip of this Princeton brush, which gets very tiny. And I love this brush because I could do broad strokes and very tiny detailed strokes as well. So I am just going in through each one and very lightly putting in those beautiful veins that you see on the poinsettia. my paint my painting is starting to dry, and I'm just giving it a good assessment, and I'm going around and darkening areas and lightening areas. So you can always, when you're doing watercolor, glaze over dried paint, and you can just do a nice glaze with a dark color like I'm doing here. Then I'll go back with a very slightly damp brush and try to soften the edges of those little areas. And also, you can pull up color when you are that further along on your painting and it's dry. You can literally lift color if you need to. So if you want to add some more highlight back to your painting, you can lift the color, and you could also put more color down. So this is called glazing, and it's a great technique in watercolor, and it's what makes your paintings look more realistic. I know a lot of people do very loose paintings and wet on wet only, and that's a beautiful technique, but I tend to use both together. So I kind of like it loose, like that's what we did at the beginning. We used wet on wet, and then we get more detailed as we go along in our painting. I added yellow to the little stamens in the middle, and I realized too that I put it in, and then I realized I needed to fix it. So in the end, I literally dab all that off and repaint the whole entire middle over again. So this is what I was saying before, that even though watercolor seems unforgiving, it actually is very forgiving. And you can literally pull things up if you need to and fix an area if you don't like it in the end. And here I'm just adding some water around my background. I want to put a blue wash back there because it'll make this poinsettia just pop a little bit, look a little bit more like it's not, just existing. It's got some sort of atmosphere around it. I'm going to finish this up now, and I hope you enjoyed my video. I really am happy that you are here. Please subscribe so I can keep on making more videos for you. I really love to teach, and I will see you in the next one.